And I'm back, Buck, the movie buff here, to talk about the Oscar wins last night, and more in context with the Best Picture uh, award winner, Everything, Everywhere, All at Once. Where do I start? Uh, it was the movie choice of the year for me. I stated that in my Oscar predictions video. And not only that, I think it should have won more Oscars than it did win. So I guess that's where I will start. Uh, even even as I was watching this with my family, and we got to Best Costume Design in the Academy Awards last night. There is this a moment where we're watching the different, very all creative costume design and so forth, and how they did it, and the kind of a little clips on the behind the scenes of it. And as it is now in history, Black Panther won for best costume design. Very strikingly amazing costumes, great interpretation for the Marvel film. But as that happened, my teenage daughter turned to me and said, "Dad, how did they win? I thought the costume design was better in Everything, Everywhere, All at Once." To which I replied, "I agree. We're not voting members on the Academy, however, and so things can go either way." With regard to just that one Oscar in particular, that should have gone, in my opinion, to Everything, Everywhere, All at Once, incredibly, this was an organic process for them to develop costumes. They allowed a lot of the actors to be an integral part in determining what their costume would look like for their character, or the various costumes, because as mentioned in yesterday's video, no spoilers now, I'm sure you've gone out to see this flick, there were multiple characters in multiple universes, and so the acting was phenomenal, and the costumes had to reflect that, and the different kind of versions of themselves in these different universes, and so rather than carry all the weight, the Daniels, on their shoulders, they actually included in the decision making process their actors, and out of that became very wonderful original ideas. One that stands out in particular is Joy in the universe where you could see written across her head her name. It caused the director of photography to work with the Daniels in terms of how they would highlight that and film it, because it was something that she had come up with, and along with the costume designer. So there's win, there's give and take, there's win and lose, and it went to the Black Panther. I would argue still there was much more original costume design for Everything, Everywhere, All at Once. The budget was much less, it being an independent film produced through A24, and no doubt a marginal amount of what the costume design had for Black Panther being a Marvel movie. That in itself is incredible, that they could come up with these costumes so much more innovative and original and striking than a movie that had millions of dollars or more, to execute different facets and aspects of the film, as did Black Panther. One of the things that stuck out to me after Everything, Everywhere, All at Once won not only the best directors but the best picture, is what Daniel Kwan said. And I do like that Daniel Steinberg had actually congratulated all of the public school teachers that had not actually thought he wouldn't make it. He joked around at first saying that, but went with the ones that had inspired him and encouraged him to become the person he was, an artist and director, and how he got to where he was in life. Very humble, not taking the credit. I think, in any area in your life, you can give credit where due. And we're all here where we are today with the inspiration and help of others. And for this individual to recognize public school teachers, especially in a year after drastic inflation, and we're seeing so many programs, especially the arts, being cut at public schools, hats off to Daniel. Daniel Kwan mentioned that the film Everything Everywhere All at Once for him was this encompassing cinematic experience that is trying to keep up with the ever evolving and changing culture and society that we're in. And as he put it, it takes years to kind of make a film like this, whereas technology changes in a millisecond. And how do we keep this medium relevant and inspirational and entertaining, all things considered? As if you've watched my other episode that was from yesterday with the Oscar predictions, I kept saying, for me, this film is one of these flicks that comes along once in a lifetime, or maybe every 10 to 20 years, and changes cinema. And I do wholeheartedly believe what I said. And we will start to see how much this film inspires other films. I think there have been a lot of films coming along. Don't get me wrong. My wife and I had this talk this morning, and she said, what about such and such movie? Or what about such and such movie? This was independent. This was, and she called out lots of films that I had to agree were inspirational and creative. I will say, however, there is usually one that crowns it all. And this is the movie that did do that, Everything Everywhere All at Once. It is a once in a lifetime flick, one that comes along every 10 to 20 years. My youngest child, my son, asked me last night after one Best Picture, Dad, how are they going to top that? And I to him brought up a film that we've all watched as a family, Pulp Fiction by Quentin Tarantino, and said to him, Quentin Tarantino came along and really put himself on the map with Pulp Fiction after Reservoir Dogs, which is a film that comes along once in a lifetime or every 10 to 20 years and changes kind of how we perceive cinema and inspires so many other films, maybe like Doug Liman's Go or other non-linear movies that came out of it. I think Chris Nolan, you could see his flicks inspired in the 90s shortly after Pulp Fiction by Tarantino, Memento in particular. But that being said, we will see the films start coming out in the 2020s here, or we're still on the first half, but definitely by the end of the second half that pay their homage to the Daniels and this movie, and how people are inspired to go out and tell their own stories and try to keep up with technology that's changing, as Daniel Kwan said last night, in a millisecond, and try to keep the art of film relevant. Most of my predictions were spot on. I was really, not surprised, but I was, it was a good movie, All Quiet on the Western Front. It took a lot of the Oscars, and rightfully so. But I was worried at one point that it might win Best Picture because it kept encroaching on the Oscars that I felt potentially could have gone to Everything Everywhere All at Once, or another film that was really well done. As I mentioned yesterday in my episode for the Oscar predictions, The Triangle of Sadness, that didn't really win any Oscars, although it was nominated for a couple. Bummer, because it is a brilliant film, and if you haven't, please go out and see that. I thought it would be the only film in my mind that could beat Everything Everywhere All at Once, although I kept seeing All Quiet on the Western Front encroach on that. Fortunately, I think the Academy got it right this year. They don't always, as I mentioned in my Oscar predictions yesterday, which is a much longer video. And there's lots of videos talking about the meaning of Everything Everywhere All at Once, and what it's all about. But as I mentioned yesterday, it pays homage to movies, from directors like Todd Haynes, Carol, Wong Kar-wai, In the Mood for Love, 2041. Go out. I mean, just go and see it, because the Daniels put it best when it was stated last night that this movie really is a movie that they couldn't even imagine would have had the influence and impact on the audience and interpretations, and people that have seen it, they've seen it means more than they could have ever thought it would have meant. And so put your YouTube video up on what you think it means. I'm not going to go there. It was my choice. From the beginning, they got it right. Like I said, this time, the Academy, and I believe and know now it's going to be in cinemas all over the state. So you'll get a chance to see it. Do go out and see it and form your own meaning out of it. it's a medium that is the seventh art and communicates things all to its own. So you can take your own interpretation out of that. Okay. Thanks for watching. Please subscribe with the link below, and participate in the comments and let me know if you have any questions or would like to see a video on some other film, or even more in depth on a particular film I've talked about in my episodes on this channel. And Buck the Movie Buff will be back with more.